Good evening.
Good evening, man. Hey, all you people out there on YouTube. Welcome to the Jamal and Joe show for another fantastic surflifless episode. I don't know if that's a word, but I think I'm like episode number 12 or 13 now. It's been a blast. And if you're watching so far, I'd really like you to do me a favor right now and hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop us a comment. We're going to do our best to entertain everybody and tell some truth and talk about what's going on in the world. Mr. Joe, how are
you? Dandy. Yourself?
Today was a good day. This was been the weirdest week ever. Well, I guess every week has been the weirdest week ever, but I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Everybody's good. Talked to my mom's today. She's good. So that always makes things go well. So what about you?
Similar. I chatted with my mom the other day it's like I go I don't check in for kind of a long time. And then we talk for 3 hours at a block. And
yeah.
All right, I guess we're good for a little bit.
Yeah.
So no, it's good. There's any number of things that could take the entire show to chat about if we wanted to. I'm not sure where you'd like to start.
Let's start with our dear leader, Donald Trump. You want to start there?
I'm hoping we only have to do so many more times.
I think it's
a handful, like a small Trump handful.
Yeah. Well, I think Inauguration Day is in 70 days or 68 days or something like that.
Oh, there's a countdown, all right.
Yeah. We need to have a little ticker, a little countdown going. So,
man, it's just how much damage can be caused between now and then, it seems to be, and it seems to be that was kind of the plan up till now, was just cause havoc and grift and, and rob this place blind. So it doesn't really seem like too much different than that.
Right.
Just like the gas pedal's a little further down, pretty much mashed all the way to the floorboard now. Short of, I don't know. I mean, the whole, again, I have some meager understandings of a lot of this stuff, but I have plenty of opinions. So, firing the entire Joint Chiefs of Staff, or lots of them.
Yeah. And the defense secretary.
And right. And again, replacing them all with just yes men schmucks that have zero qualifications other than saying yes to Trump. It's got lots of folks wondering about all these people that got fired or stepped down. What were they saying no to? What were they being asked to do? They're like, nope. Up till now, I guess I've been on board, which is saying something. Because honestly, they've gassed protesters just so he could do a little victory lap to a church, back in the summertime. That was pretty unusual. But he must, whatever they just got asked to do, must have
been pretty bad. Because this last 3 years has been a pretty interesting experiment in American politics. And, I think the real winners coming out of this is Gen Y. Is it Gen Y? Gen Z? Gen Y? I have an 11-year-old, and she's big into TikTok, and we've discussed TikTok. But this whole generation of 10 to 15-year-olds who are on TikTok absolutely detest Trump. They can't stand him. And they make videos day after day about free Barron Trump and, all this stuff. My daughter on election night, I think I told you this, I walked in her room and she was on her Chromebook and she had her phone and she was doing a group chat, and her and her friends were watching CNN. 6 11-year-old girls were watching CNN and they were watching the election returns. And I'm like, honey, it's 1 a.m. She's like, you need to go to bed. She's like, we got to make sure that Trump loses. We got to make sure that Biden, there's really nothing you can do. She's like, well, we're on here and we're talking about it. And I kind of shut her door a little bit. and kind of listened in. And it's funny, like watching on her screen, and she's in her Zoom, and there's 6 other girls, and they're talking about like Trump is going to kill the rainforest and he's going to cut down the trees. And my dad told me that he fired the head of the protection agency, and he's going to dirty up all the rivers, and just the stuff that they were talking about that was mostly true. But
no, I dig it. It's got like the flavor of kids with it, so it's
exactly,
maybe a bit exaggerated here or there.
Yeah, but for the most part, she was spot on. And then listening, and this is at like 1:30 on election night, they were talking about the Electoral College, and for the first time, I realized my daughter listens to me, because she explained the Electoral College to her little friends perfectly. And I was so proud. And I wanted to rush in her room and give her a hug, but I didn't want to know that I was eavesdropping on her. But I'm like, you explained it better than I did.
Nice.
Because, she's explaining it to her, and she's sharing her screen and pulled up a map on CNN and was telling her friends, we need this state and this state. And somebody on there had a calculator, and they were adding it up, and they were like, we're going to get this done. We're going to do it. And I'm like, okay. Generation is, hey, at 11, at 12, I didn't know what the heck the Electoral College was.
Well, dude, I'm sorry, but the gap between the age of growing up with a phone and the age of growing up and the internet and the age of growing up without it, that gap couldn't be huger.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's something I've thought about a lot of, the differences between generations always seem so big. Like when we were growing up, we heard about the generations before us and how different they were, how different the times were. And like, those little differences at the time seem big, but looking back seem trivial compared to whether or not you grew up in the age of the internet or not. Just that part alone, that qualifier alone, if you grew up with the internet or if you did not, and how big of a difference that is, how much, those of us that didn't have adapted to it. And those of the world that have grown up with it like that.
Yeah, man. Back when we were in school, the Dewey Decimal System, like we legit had to go to a library and like pull cards and go find a book. Nowadays, you just, and you can
for sure
book on your computer.
Yeah, and with all that, it can be argued that people as a whole seem a little dumber. Even with the whole of human knowledge in our pocket, a lot of people don't seem better off with that. Now your kid's a different example. Your kid's an example of like doing something extraordinary that people couldn't even like dream of being able to pull off something like that, or have that big of a coordinated effort and actually be educated in what they're talking about and intelligent about what they're trying to do, and actually being able to peddle influence. That's remarkable. Because, as active as a 10-year-old may have wanted to be back in the day before computers and stuff, they could maybe get active in their local community, and they could put out flyers or go give talks on the corner or wherever a 10-year-old could go get space to talk. But now, just like there's the same opportunity for morons to blast their stupid all over the place. Right. There's opportunity for a smart 10-year-old to blast some people with some knowledge, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, her and her friends, they know how to edit Wikipedia pages, and they do.
That can be a pro and a con, I suppose.
We could have a whole show on Wikipedia and whether it's reliable or not.
I would, sure, for sure. Yes. Yes.
I look at Wikipedia for a lot of stuff, and anything you read on the internet, you got to take with a grain of salt. Like It's
Yeah, but people don't. But see, you make that immediate assumption, and like like getting on a motorcycle, you should wear a helmet, and not everybody makes that same assumption. A lot of folks, I think, unfortunately, especially the older folks that are new to the internet, that aren't as aware of the idea of, check your sources, because if it's on the internet, it must be true.
right. Well,
I don't know. I don't know if kids are. I don't know. Are kids any better at sussing that out and going, "Oh, that's a BS article because it comes from this source and that source is bogus because of this reason here"?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the days when, if it was on the internet, it was true. Like, I remember those days in the beginning. Now, looking back on it, it probably wasn't true, but we were just that honeymoon naive period to where you'd see something on AOL and you're like, oh, that's what's going on, and we've gotten to the point now where I think rightfully so, everybody's a little sus about what you see. Like, if I see an article on CNN,
I don't think they are. I do not think people are suspect of what they're reading, honestly. I mean,
I'll give it to you this way. I'll give it to you this way.
Would you say more than half of the population on the internet is actually critical about what they're reading?
No, because I've seen some people that I thought that were smart, that just randomly share stuff that's like from The Onion and they believe it. It happened many times. Like people
like actual like smart people. I mean, like
people that I thought were smart, they shared something and it was from The Onion, and I'm like, or not the Onion, but other parody sites that are clearly parody sites, and they share it. I'll give you an example. Someone in my wife's family, I won't say their name, shared a parody site of, it was like this guy holding up Barack Obama's birth certificate and it said Nigeria on it. Clearly a forgery, clearly like a parody, like making a joke, but it was like it was real. And she shared it and was like, the proof is here. Oh my God, here's the proof. Read this. And I saw it and I was like, oh, you don't recognize the domain name. That's a parody site. And didn't do any research, just shared it.
So, I mean, that's unfortunate. And that's from what you're saying is an outright parody site versus, what is even more challenging to all of our society, in my opinion, is, these places that look legit and are trying to pass themselves off as legit as a news source. I mean, there's OAN, One America Network. Doesn't that sound like some freaking like straight out of Orwell? I mean, what the hell is that? I mean, and they're just, again, they're just garbage, but it's dolled up garbage, screaming at folks like they're legitimate, and nobody. Is freedom of speech really that great?
Well, remember when you break down,
sorry, you do that. I'm gonna try. Yes, go.
So when you break down freedom of speech, it's only talking about certain areas. You don't have the right to say everything.
Right.
Only protects you from being prosecuted for saying certain things. Like, the old saying, you can't go yell fire in a theater. Freedom is, if you're peddling lies.
So why are these people allowed to then?
That's a tough question. So I think the answer to that is nobody has had the will to challenge it, because the Supreme Court has not, in the last 15, 20 years, been willing to take on big freedom of speech cases. And they've just kind of let the status quo lie. So you have places like Fox News that if you look at their charter and you look at the fine print,
it's entertainment.
They're an entertainment company.
Right.
They call themselves the Fox News Channel, but they're an entertainment company. And when you look at the fine print, they have to disclose it, and they disclose it. Now, because they disclose it on their website and because they disclose it in their credits, they can say whatever they want to in their coverage. Just like Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh is not a newsman. Rush Limbaugh is just as much an entertainer as Chris Rock is, right? He's an entertainer. He's there.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was just going to try to, on levels of entertainer, I go Chris Rock is a little hot. I was saying, but please.
But you get what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. No, but that's my whole point. Is that so? Why hasn't anybody gone? Okay, hey, look. Either one, Fox News Channel Entertainment Corporation. Why? I mean, there has been not just a couple. I mean, demonstrable outright lies.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's no consequence for that. Or if there is, do they just go, oh, remember we're entertainment? Then I don't know. I mean, I obviously if it was my world, it would just say Fox Entertainment Channel. And then not that it would really affect anything now because it's so ingrained as it's an institution. And you're like, okay, right. It's exactly. Not.
Well, they branded themselves as the anti-CNN, right? They branded themselves as the outlet for conservative-leaning people to come and get their information.
For sure.
And realistically, Fox News is the biggest puppet master that there's ever been in the entire world. I mean, strings and dancing things around. I mean, there hasn't been a bigger.
It's kind of funny how like the biggest social media influencers in our country, to our demise, I would add, are owned by like not Americans.
Correct. This is correct.
But yeah, and again, I mean, they wave the flag the hardest, Mm-hmm. But the freedom of speech part, that was something I just, because we all know you can't do the old fire in a crowded theater, but that is not literally the only words you can't say. That's right. Like an example of things you can't say. And to me, it seems like there's plenty of other things that you could say that are like inciting violence, really. I mean, right. I mean, I don't know. That's what I thought you called this kind of stuff. Right. So I don't know. It's no different than, if you're protesting something, okay, fine. Can you burn an effigy of the president? And is that okay? I mean, people were doing that. I mean, I know people, I saw examples, unless it was fake news, back in Obama's days of some very unfortunate protesters displays. Right. And it's like, again, where does the free speech line get crossed? And you're like, okay, you're not just saying you don't like somebody, you're actually advocating somebody go do something. Exactly. And that's not okay. That's right. So that's where somebody comes and takes your sign down and takes your ass off, yeah. But I've never seen an example of that happening, other than I've seen people that have signs that, if it says like Antifa, and then they get like a freaking cloud of, pepper spray or something, but other than that, it seems like everybody's signs are just A-okay, and all the speech is just A-okay. And maybe the Secret Service pays people to visit, like, on the quiet, and then
they might, you know, we don't know, because
it just seems like, I mean, but even that's so. Can I just say this? Yeah. This is where it seems like it goes, where the idea of the folks that you're not a big fan of, is it better that they're out and out wearing their hat, so you see them, or is it better that they're in their hole where they feel bad to congregate? And to me, again, I all I'm saying is just that the president's own speech seems to cross into inciting violence, because he's calling for these very people to come out and go do bad things to other people. And that's not okay to do. The last I ever checked, that's not okay to do, especially from the damn president. So I don't know, that free speech, folks have found a way to abuse it, I guess, like they can find a way to abuse anything. And I guess we'll put that on the list of things that need to maybe get looked at or modified in the near future. I don't know.
What I would like to do, and give me just a second.
No.
I would like to tell you just a little bit more about the First Amendment.
All right.
So, the First Amendment text reads, Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or the press, or the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. That's what it reads in the First Amendment. So while the First Amendment protects freedom of speech from religion, press, and assembly and petition, the subsequent amendments under the Bill of Rights deal with the protection of American values, including the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms. So when we talk about speech, the Supreme Court has struggled to determine what types of speech is protected. Legally, material labeled as obscene has historically been excluded from First Amendment protection. Well, my computer's weird now. And then that comes under what's obscene, because some people might say burning a flag is obscene. But the Supreme Court has said, burn away. You can burn a flag. The Supreme Court has also said that I can operate a strip club, and that's not obscene. And then there's some other things that they've considered obscene. So people throw around free speech this and free speech that and don't really understand what the Constitution says. I've challenged some of my right-wing friends who throw around the First and Second Amendment, and I'm like, give me 3 lines from the Constitution around the Second Amendment. Tell me what it says. They give me their opinion or what they think it says. They don't know what it says. So when people start talking about freedom of speech, I'm like, you are 100% wrong. You claim to be this Bible thumping, Constitution quoting conservative, and you don't even know what's in the First Amendment. So go do your research and come back and see me.
That would seem to be and you kind of mentioned it, there's 2 really important documents that they cling to and try to hide behind, but don't actually really know themselves, the Bible or the Constitution. And, right. I don't claim to be a constitutional law person, but I don't make a lot of huge sweeping claims about it either and try to bag on other people and say, this is why you can't do something other than maybe the free speech thing, because honestly, I don't know. We could look further into that because I'm willing to be here. You can't incite violence.
Correct.
You just can't.
You can't.
It's just a thing. And I don't know what part of the wording that you just read was the part that says you can't incite violence, but I know that it's somewhere in there.
No, that was a direct quote from the Constitution.
Yeah. And so I just, and that's where a lot of, and oh my, as soon as it happens and if it comes down, this is what's frustrating. Everybody goes, oh man, if you laid it on to Fox News and you said, okay, we're going to censor you, they would be so worried about like the lashback from all of the Fox News or whatever. You know what? The last 4 years have shown you don't really have to worry about the lashback. You just keep plowing ahead.
Here's my question to you. If you're going to censor a news network, who does the censoring?
Again, but you got to qualify that. You said a news network.
Okay. If you were going to censor Fox Entertainment, who would that be the government that would be going after them? Or would that be a consortium of lawyers representing a plaintiff who was harmed that would go after them. I mean, obviously that would have.
You know, I mean, I'm all for it being like an FCC violation. You know, right? I'm sure that like part of your radio license or whatever is you can't be broadcasting, or your TV license. You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if SNL did a skit, if Chappelle came out on a skit and just did some wild, like, and he's like, that's just comedy. And it was like, I'm talking, I don't even want to give an example. Imagine a horrible example of something.
Right.
And he goes, oh, no, that was just a skit. I'm just an entertainer. So Fox would be able to lay the same excuse on anything, right?
True. Well, remember back in the 50s and 60s, they arrested rock and roll musicians because they were obscene, right? They arrested.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, they arrested Kiss. You know, they arrested a lot of people who were things. They arrested Ozzy Osbourne, you know, for things now that are considered tame. You know, jiggling your hips on TV,
right?
Considered obscene, you know.
But I mean, like, for example, there's like a whole bunch of, I don't know, our soon to be former president supporters that came to, I think, DC today for a picnic or something.
Yes, let's talk about that.
There's supposed to be a million of them.
Maga March. Right.
So I think that according to the scale of realism to claimed like crowd, you know, it was on par with like the inauguration,
right?
You know, where there were the millions of people you just couldn't see, but the few thousand, I guess, that showed up, which is again too many. But it doesn't take much to cause a huge disruption, especially when, you know, you're allowed to, or you're being encouraged to by all the people that should be keeping you in control. So yeah, I don't know how that turned out today, but I'm sure that if we looked really hard, we could probably find a few examples of some signs that were maybe, in my opinion, questioning, you know, the line of decency or, you know, obscenity.
Well, I'll tell you this: when Barack Obama was running for president, I saw some signs that I was like, "What year is this?" Like,
right? That's what I'm saying. So
is this like serious right now?
So apparently, there was a sign that was seen at the Million Maga March. It's like M3. This sign read, and this was seen like on a Fox Entertainment News broadcast, and the quote said, "We're coming for blacks and Indians." You feel good about that free speech? I don't.
Yeah, I mean, that's inciting. I mean, how much more clear can you get than that? You know, like how much more clear can you get than
so why is that okay to be in a parade? Go.
It's not. That's the kind of thing that we need to eradicate.
So you're not for
like
free speech? No.
See, the thing is, that is not covered by free speech.
I agree.
That's the funny part. People think that is, but that is not 100% not covered by free speech.
And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of examples of what these folks think, and it may not quite line up with, you know, reality.
Right.
So I don't know. Do you want to shift? Let's shift a gear. Unless there's something else you want to add, then please add.
No, I'm done with the MAGA and the red hat. I'm done with that. You know, we're good. We're good with that. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, shifting gears, about our friends at Ticketmaster and what.
Right.
So have you heard this story?
Just when you texted it to me. So
we all know that concerts have been put on hold because of the pandemic. And, the news has come out that there's a vaccine, hopefully that should be coming out. Ticketmaster hasn't released their full plan, but their plan in development is in order for you to be able to go to a Ticketmaster event, they are going to partner with a third-party health information company. And you were either, so the plan is, if approved, after buying a ticket, you would need to show proof that you either had been vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccination, or that you had tested negative for COVID-19 within a 72-hour period prior to attending the event. So theoretically, this vaccine would provide about 1 year's worth of protection. So kind of similar to like a flu shot. And once you got all that done, that health company would verify that the ticket holder, has the correct COVID-19 status. And then after that verification, you would need to get like a certification or something. And then you'd take that to Ticketmaster, then you'd be able to get into the show. So I want to know from you, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, that was one of the items on my list, was the new vaccine or the old vaccine. Because it seemed like a few weeks ago anyway, or up till very recently, all the talk that I had heard, not all of it, but a lot, and I agreed with, was whatever vaccine comes out with Trump's name on it, I ain't interested. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, a day and a half after they confirmed Biden's the man, oh, here's the vaccine. So did they just, they being, the people that really run shit, they go, okay, enough of the clown show. You go right off into the sunset after this, or whatever you're going to go do. We don't really care what the hell you go do. Well, we're all done with you. You got us as far as you're going to take us, baby. And so
I think with the vaccine, from what I've seen and what I've heard, people trust Pfizer, the company that made the vaccine.
Which is in Germany, not in America, by the way.
Well, there's three different vaccines.
Okay.
There's three different companies that have come up with vaccines, but the Pfizer one is kind of the one that they said is 90% reliable.
Right. I just heard that he was trying to take credit for like developing that. And it's like,
no.
Stop.
So the thing that Trump did is he pushed through billions of dollars that normally companies are like begging for money to get the testing and stuff done. And that's been accelerated because basically they've had a blank check that they can go and do. So he did do that. I can't take that away from him. He didn't do anything else but just say, here's all of the money from the Treasury to go do this, which I argue is not necessarily a bad decision. People trust Pfizer. The other two companies I've never heard of, like you said, German company, and one, I don't know where they are, but Pfizer has come up with a lot of legit medical things over the years.
For sure.
They're still a money grubbing pharmaceutical company. There's that. But I don't think that people should look at it as a Trump vaccination, because Pfizer was around way before Trump and will be here way after Trump. Now, I've gone on record to say I am not going to be the first person in line to get a vaccination. If they deem it safe, not by the politicians, but by medical people, I will get it. Just like I get the flu shot every year. However, I'm not going to be the first guy to go and get it. I want to see what happens with it. Yeah. I've been quarantined for 8 months, and I'm good. I wear a mask when I go to the grocery store. I'm good. If I'm not in that first wave that gets the vaccine and people start growing a third arm and start speaking Russian and all this other, I can wait until it's,
Yeah.
Emily, we've been hunkered down. I don't need to get back out on these streets right away. That's not my main motivation, is to get out there and run and be at a bar until 2 a.m. I'm fine. When the vaccine is safe, I will get it. until the medical experts say it is 100% safe.
As close as you can get to 100%.
The flu shot. I mean, people get sick from the flu shot, but
for sure. And it's just the tough thing is that, the CDC was the standard up until kind of recently when they shit canned all the people that worked at the top of that and then put in a bunch of morons that just say yes to Orange Daddy at the top. Right. And I mean, when it stopped, when the CDC stopped, the CDC stopped reporting the COVID cases and sent all the information to the White House for approval. I mean, what the hell kind of, in a normal world, like any American would throw up at that idea.
Right.
I mean,
science does not need approval of politicians.
Well,
it doesn't.
It does. It does now.
Well, in 70 days it won't.
Nice. What
do you think about Ticketmaster? You think they're making a good decision? You think they're making a bad decision?
Well, I think that you're going to get a lot of. I'm curious. Are people going to? I mean, every event. Like every stadium is going to want to do the same thing. Every soccer, football, baseball, basketball, every sporting event is right behind this idea. No, they are. Because they all want to get butts back in the seats.
Right.
Everybody wants to go back to normal. That would be great. As far as Ticketmaster doing that, they're trying to get out ahead of it. So good for them. How will people respond to that? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are gagging to get back out and go be mushed into a crowd because they're already doing it, even without a vaccine. So, just the whole now is that's going to be the new, passport.
Normal for everything.
No, but that's going to be the new passport is, are you COVID vaccinated?
Yeah.
Before you send your kiddos back to school,
right.
They're going to require that. Any kind of sporting event, for the kiddos, they'll make sure you got that, which is not crazy. I mean, hello, they did the same thing back when we went to school and played sports.
Polio and chicken pox.
Yeah, you had to show that you're up on all your shots. I mean, you just did. That was like the first thing you brought to a new school.
Right.
Was like, here's my non-plague ridden kid, so that's, now it's just a digital instead of a piece of paper. So I can.
So where do you think
others going? Oh, the mark of the beast.
Right. So there's the anti-vaxxers out there. Do you think this is going to turn more people into anti-vaxxers or more people into vaxxers?
I would. That's a good question because I think because this has so widely affected everything that people want that, everybody wants to go back to whatever their normal is. And if stuff like Ticketmaster doing that, and like I say, it's going to be the same kind of thing for kids or for going back to work, I mean, it'll be the standard, that it'll be like what you have to do to go participate in society again.
And the funny thing is, the people who are fighting so hard about not wanting to be in quarantine are the people who were the least likely to go get the vaccine.
That's the damn truth.
You know what I mean?
Dude, nail on the head.
Yeah.
Well, but they're the same folks that are screaming the loudest about amendments in the Constitution that they don't understand, or verses in the Bible that they don't understand. You're a religious person. You've read the Bible, yes?
Many times.
You've actually read it, right?
Dude, I went to Catholic school. I've been through the front cover to the back cover during my 4 years when I went to Catholic school. Like, and then before that, when I went to Catholic elementary school, I've studied the Bible. I haven't read it in a long time, but people spout off these Bible verses, and I'm like, that's not what it says. I'm just like, all right, go ahead. If that's what you think, that's like legit. Like
that's a problem, though, is it? I mean, people. Why not just? I can come up with my own verse too. Joe 3:18.
Right.
Don't be dicks to each other. I Bill and Ted said that. Praise be. So yeah. Did you see Chappelle's thing on SNL last week?
I saw clips of it. So we were recording when it was on my time. So I didn't see it live, but I saw clips of it. What was your impression of it?
I mean, I enjoyed it. It, like folks have pointed out, he's not doing comedy.
Mm-hmm.
He's not. I mean, I guess you could call
commentary.
Yeah, nice. There you go. For sure.
Yeah.
That again, yeah, you were 2 for 2. But he's spot on. I mean, he and it's nice to just hearing, I was going to say, it's just nice to hear somebody speak like an adult in public,
Yes.
and actually like, not like they're trying to sell you a line of
Right.
garbage. But even to that effect, just the couple times that I've got to hear or even read, quotes by the president-elect or the vice president-elect. And I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, we sound like normal America again.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't sound like just flaming gas bags of poo lit on fire on the doorstep that you're trying to step out. And then you go,
Exactly.
I got poo all over my foot.
We sound like we know what we're doing and we're qualified to be there.
But again, I mean, that swing, that potential swing that in 4 years, that could all just swing back into crazy town. And that's.
There's reports that Trump says he's going to run in 2024.
Well, of course, he's probably, I mean, dude, he's grifting that already. He's already setting up the campaign fund. Donate now to Trump2024.com, which
here's the deal.
Funny because, the idea that he'll even be alive by then. I mean, he probably will because he's like a roach, but I mean, nobody else will run in the meantime because
if the Republican Party allows that to happen, they're in a lot worse shape than I thought they were, because Trump doesn't care about my opinion. Trump doesn't care about the Republican Party. Trump cares about Donald J. Trump. He doesn't care the effects of the down ballot, which is good for Democrats, and I'm a Democrat. I'm not just a voting Democrat. I like actually go out and do stuff, knock on doors, make phone calls, talk to voters. But Trump doesn't care about the Republican Party. He cares about himself. He doesn't like to lose, and up until now, he hasn't done a whole lot of losing. And this is one he can't buy himself out of. He can't cheat himself out of, although he's going to try. Come January 20th, he's out. So the most narcissistic and selfish thing he can do is say he's going to run in 2024. That should scare every Republican to their core, because they are going to be handcuffed and shackled for 4 years to Trump when that's not in their best interest.
Dude, I mean, the printing press for all the flags and towels, I mean, that have Trump 2024 on them already. Again, and just the disconnect, because I've seen way less support flags, whatever, around here after last Saturday, where it was called finally, but there's still a few, really flying their great big flag, Trump flag, and I mean, what it says, no more bullshit.
Right.
Cool. I mean,
so here's my thing about that one. If they were flying that in 2016, I could see it. But flying that in 2020, when he's trying to be reelected, wouldn't that mean that that's what the last 4 years were? I mean, if we're being literal.
you don't even gotta. That's further into it than they just like the word bullshit, and that they can put that on a flag.
But do you see my point?
They don't, and they never will. That's the problem. I mean,
right.
How are you ever going to reach those folks?
Right.
I'm saying you ain't.
You're
mean, you could cut them some checks and maybe you'll win them over. Honestly. I mean, like so here you go. Because suddenly Democrats are the ones that are supposed to reach out a healing hand. And you're like,
right.
These people have been doing this for 4 years.
Yeah.
And just in your face as much as they can.
Mm-hmm.
And then they lose. And we're supposed to go, oh, hey, bud. You okay?
Yeah. Right.
I mean, what?
Yeah.
But, okay, so fine. So I'm supposed to give a shit about their feelings.
It's
okay,
so
fine.
But
here's my idea how to bring them into the fold. Give them some money. Why not? Why not? I mean, because they've just got stiffed and they're still on board with this dump truck. If you actually gave them, like, took the opportunity, because you got to shut this place down properly to get this freaking pandemic under control.
Right.
So shut it down, give folks a proper check so that they can get by. Oh my gosh, because I hear this from industry folks of, well, they're making more when they ain't working. I'm like, does that strike you as kind of messed up at all? But the only way that it's messed up is because they're viewing it from the perspective of they're a business owner and their people aren't showing up to work. And I'm like, pay him a little more and maybe they'd want to show up to work. Yeah.
That's a novel idea.
But that anyway, so if you could, the pushback that you get from this, from the business community is remarkable, but whatever. I mean, the basic minimum wage being, I don't know, needs to be like whatever, $15 an hour, I believe is what they're calling for. I think that's reasonable enough. If you didn't have to tie your health insurance to your job, that'd be nice.
Right.
And then if in the immediate future of the lockdown, you give folks whatever it is, $2,500 a month. I mean, that's going to be more money than a lot of people have ever lived on.
Correct.
And then, but you have something behind it. You have a works program. Maybe it invests in green programs, and you put people to work on new green programs so that we can rebuild our infrastructure in a new fashion that would be, capable of handling the cities that we've got cities so overpopulated for the infrastructures that they have. Portland's a great example of that. I mean, we don't build a new anything around here other than a cute little trolley that goes up and down a hill for like a sky tram for like some doctors so they don't have to park in a different parking lot. But the whole city pays for that one. But it's pretty sweet. But we don't do nikes all for new bridges to go anywhere, new roads to go anywhere, nothing. But we've got 5 times the population we've ever had, at least. So again, just taking the opportunity, put some folks to work and give them a future that they don't otherwise have. Like I've been watching, this just rolls right into it. I've been watching some YouTube videos from the National Archives, and they're very interesting. I mean, there's a ton of stuff in the National Archives, and there's also talk about a rabbit hole you can go down. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. But one of the things I watched for a moment was the National Archives video from 1944 on the Tennessee Valley.
Okay.
And it talked about, I mean, it did everything but say, look at these dumb crackers. I mean, that was the move. That was the show. Like, these people stayed on land that was terrible. They didn't figure out how to deal with it. They were coming off of terrible times from the economy. Yes, but they never adapted to anything new. Like they showed the cities where there was industry and, you know, all the Industrial Revolution that happened there, and everybody moved to the cities, except for these folks. They said, no, we're going to stay in our shit farm and till shit. And didn't turn out for them very well.
Right.
And I didn't make it all the way through that video, but I was just like gobsmacked. Just the different view versus now. Those folks are catered to. Those folks are ass kissed. I mean, Trump said it best. I love the uneducated. And I love to keep people uneducated. Because if they knew any better, they'd see through your bullshit.
Right. They're easy to manipulate. So let me ask you this. Let's go back to what you said earlier about how to get this pandemic under control. You said lock it down properly.
Yep.
So
this is going to be so impossible, by the way. I mean,
well,
unless you give folks money. Give folks money, they will stay locked down.
Well, we had our opportunity. I remember March 13th. I'll always remember that day. It was a Friday. And they were like, it was like 10 o'clock. And they were like, go home. They were like, take your computer, go home.
Yep.
We're going to be at home for 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. We're going to get this under control. That was March 13th.
Yep.
And I was like, damn. So I called my wife, go to the grocery store and get a bunch of food because we're going to be locked in the house for 2 weeks. Everybody was freaking out. Everybody was buying toilet paper. And then people were like, oh my God, my freedoms, I'm not going to be locked down. And I look back on that and think if we had strong leadership that said, hey, we really need to call a timeout and everybody needs to chill out for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, where would we be now? Look around the world, look at some of the other countries who, well, forcibly locked people down. Maybe not the way I would do it, or it was legal, wouldn't be legal here, but they locked everybody down and they had curfews and they had people patrolling the streets. They locked it down for a month and they got their stuff under control. Right? I think we missed our opportunity. I think it's polarized now where people don't even want to wear a mask.
For sure.
At our opportunity, I would love to know what would have happened if for the month of March and April, if we had locked everything down. Where would we be now?
You know, to me, that just presupposes that you wanted to have a handle on it in the first place. And if you did, it would never have gotten to this point. It just wouldn't have, because all the infrastructure that we had in place overseas would still be there to deal with this shit overseas. Every step along the way, from letting people in that had it into California when it first came in. Like, I remember hearing about this shit. Like, there was like an airplane full of people, and they landed them, and they didn't treat them like the people that dealt with them were not really dealing with them like in proper biohazard kind of ways.
Right.
And then just let them on their way. I mean, like, that is literally out of a script, out of a effing bad movie. I mean,
yeah, that cruise ship
how to spread a plague around. I mean, goddamn.
Like that cruise ship that was in the San Francisco Bay, and they just let those people come in.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, at every step along the way, and I would even go so far as to say, again, if the will was there, and I argue that it wasn't, and that's why we're here, was it? I mean, you call a national emergency. I mean, I'm pretty sure in the past they've used the plague to lock stuff down because they needed to, and the authority, be it the local, state, or federal authority, comes in and locks your ass down. And I'm pretty sure in the past they didn't really give much. I mean, back in the 20s or 30s. I mean, in the Spanish flu time, I mean, did they finally ever lock it down? They must have at some point,
right?
Or did they just let it burn through? I don't honestly know. But for where we're at now, yeah, I mean, looking back, if you tell everybody now, gosh, even like a 6-week lockdown, which at the time seemed like insane, looking back wouldn't have been so bad, huh?
Right.
But nope, here we are. But I do think that I mean, it would be so hard to do it properly now because, like you said, it's been so politicized, every bit of it, almost like you're trying to make it worse. Again, the will to make it better is not there. The will to make it worse has always, that's what it's been.
And so here's my thing. If you're Trump and you like people to support you, you like people to love you, and you like people to vote for you, the people who are not adhering to the quarantine and getting sick and dying are the people that would be supporting him. So it's like,
primarily,
you know what I mean? I mean, it's a little bit more wide ranging. You say there's a will not to cure it, and I'm interested in hearing you out on that. But the reason why I have trouble with that is the people who are most affected by it are the people who are supporting him the hardest.
Expendable. Who cares?
You just inflicting ill will on people that you want to support you.
They're expendable, and they still absolutely follow his every word. He hasn't lost an ounce of support from his core group, even when he actually tries to kill them.
Yeah.
What? I mean, how is it? Tell me where that's wrong. I mean,
you're right. You're right.
Because I mean, here's my conspiracy hat. I mean, I view all this through the lens of that there's an adversary. If there's not an adversary in charge of our country, it sure seems like everything that's happening doesn't benefit us at all.
Right.
How are we greater than we were 4 years ago again? I mean, I don't see it. So
this is a long game thing. So what's the end game?
Whose end game?
The adversary's end game.
Oh, I mean, as much chaos and destruction as they can get away with here, so that nobody's paying attention to whatever they're doing wherever they are. That's easy cheesy sauce. I mean, China's
Russia? Is that China?
Both. I mean, we've got a lot of adversaries, right? If you were our adversary and you could send an email to one of our other adversaries and you go, hey, here's a way to fuck with our mutual adversary of the states, which is
that like one of those, my enemy's enemy is my friend?
Yeah, of course. I mean, everybody hates the states. I mean, all the bad guys do, right? That's what we've been shown in all the movies and stuff. So it's in their own best interest to destabilize us, and they've always tried to. It's just that we've actually been competent enough to stave them off to one degree or another, but not now. I mean, and again, if it's all just coincidence that everything that's going on now, like that, there is no foreign manipulation of our current administration, then it is a remarkable coincidence that all the things that I would chalk up to as bad for our country, and there's just a gigantic list of that stuff. I don't see how any of that benefits us. I mean, we pull out of agreements, we get nothing from it. I mean, whether that's North Korea, whether that's, It's remarkable. So
the Paris climate deal.
Yeah, I just don't see where, again, and this is for the guy that's supposed to be the king deal maker. I mean, we're in a lesser standing in the world than we ever have been. And I mean, you gotta try to do that. You know, I mean, you could be on cruise control and we'd still be, king shit.
So does it come down to greed? Is it?
Well, for sure, of course.
I mean, is he trying to amass the most money possible?
Well, I don't think. Well, no, I think he's in massive debt. I mean, dude, he's trying to pay his bills,
because
and not wind up with a freaking like horse's head in his freaking bed.
True. The things he's doing, I still don't see how they benefit him personally. It's like
they benefit the people, his debtors. If he's in debt, say to folks like Russia, or what we know he pays taxes in China. I mean, how on earth China got him to pay almost $1 million in taxes?
Right.
I mean, so if they can get him to pay taxes, what else could they get the Don to do? I mean, dude, he wouldn't pay taxes to save his freaking kid's life.
Right.
But China got him to pay taxes. That's pretty impressive. So, I mean, all of the things, all of our international standing has just been diminished. I mean, I don't think we've pulled out of NATO yet, but I mean,
we pulled out of the World Health Organization.
That's what I'm saying. So,
in the middle of a pandemic.
That seems pretty smart, Yep. So, again, everything that happens, it seems to be to our detriment. I don't see where we benefit from any of these big deals. I just see, Russia getting a lot more leeway with how they can move about in their part of the world.
Well, here, think about this. Putin has been super quiet for a long. Have you noticed that? Remember, we used to hear Putin's this and that. He has been so quiet for the past 3 or 4 months. Not a peep out of those guys. That makes that worries me, because you remember, I'm the guy. I like to see stuff out front. I like to see what the heck's going on. And when they kind of go, when Putin goes underground and is silent, that's when I think he's doing something.
I mean, again, we're so distracted by the shit show here on all day, every day. And again, fine, call me conspiracy. That's the Don's job. Be a shit flinging monkey that everybody focuses on. And then we're going to go do our stuff over here while you're flinging shit on the wall and nobody's paying attention. I mean, what Russia is, I mean, even like the whole Syria thing. I mean, I don't know. And China is trying to expand, its influence. I mean, Hong Kong is Hong Kong's gone. Taiwan. What? I mean, although didn't we just do some shit? Like we sent some Marines to Taiwan. So I'm sure that didn't piss anybody off.
No, not at all.
I'm sure China was just like, oh, sweet,
Yeah.
Because I don't think what was it like there hasn't been a U.S. military presence in Taiwan. You know what I'm saying? Since like
World War II,
right? That's what I'm saying. Like because we're not supposed to recognize them,
right?
Everybody just kind of ignores the whole Taiwan in the room. But now we're like, no, fuck it, we're gonna send a division of Marines over. So fun. Stir some shit up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, we have got to go back to all of our allies. I mean, hat in hand, which is the nice thing that Grandpa Joe at least has got that kind of going for him. Like, hey, everybody, grown-ups back. Yeah, the adults back in the room. Can we still be friends? And I mean, dude, they should put us on such a tight leash. But we also, I mean, we are what we are. I mean, we're a huge market. We're the big dog. We have the big stick. So yeah, I mean, But I mean, even like what we stopped patrolling. Oh shit! What was it? Like, I think it was we stopped patrolling in the South China Sea.
Mm-hmm.
Like our agreement with South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Like we backed out of that or something. Like, oh, okay, that's just something we've been doing for 60 or 70 years.
Yeah.
I mean, no big deal. Yeah, and again, I mean, and these are like things like where it's like, oh, like my old man fought in that war, and it feels a little weird because you're like, wow, it kind of feels like now whatever he fought for kind of wasn't for shit, but yet folks that would still be like, hooray, hooray. I don't know.
That's the thing that, like, when I see a Nazi flag, I'm like, didn't we fight a war against these jokers? And we lost hundreds and thousands of young men fighting in Germany to beat the Nazis for someone to fly a Nazi flag. Like,
well, there's a lot of that here before we went over there. I mean, you see some kind of wild old pictures of like the American Nazi Party.
mm-hmm.
We were not exactly the most, we're not always the most United States.
Right.
There was a not insignificant contingent of this country that was not really on board, or actually vehemently against. I mean,
right.
they were flying swastikas here, man. I mean,
yeah,
that's wild shit. Henry Ford sold a lot of vehicles.
He sure did.
To those folks.
He sure did.
And it wasn't just good business. I mean, he had similar views.
It's a good way to put it.
He was sympathetic. Yeah. So, here. What do you got a new thing? I mean, I was gonna go from like fifth to third. Like
go ahead.
Have you ever done like driving stick? You ever done that? Like you thought you were gonna go from like fifth to fourth, but you kind of miss it and you go all the way to second, and you're like, oh god, I just blew up the engine.
And you feel like the transmission's gonna fall out on the road.
Oh, good stuff. Hold on here. So I was curious about like I'm new to the idea of binging a show.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's like all the rage, but I'm late to the game. So I finally did. And my first
what was it?
I binged Breaking Bad.
Okay, what'd you think?
I don't recommend doing that.
Okay. Why is that?
Left me in a sour mood.
With the whole thing.
Well, I mean, great. I mean, great show. I mean, obviously. And again, maybe I'll update you next on a show I heard about called Game of Thrones. Keep it all current events.
I've never seen one episode of Game of Thrones.
Oh, no shit.
Haven't. It's not my genre, man. It's not.
Dragons, rawr,
not my thing. Never seen Harry Potter.
Okay, what about like Lord of the Rings?
Never seen Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, okay, good. You're consistent. Huh?
It's not my genre.
It's not. It is certainly not. It seems like.
It's.
Do you do the superhero movies?
I don't.
Now, see, here's the thing. Now that's real interesting because like I used to, and now I can't stand them. Like I've lost my luster for superhero movies.
Right.
I got wore out on them. I mean, like all the Avenger ones. I mean, I just don't care anymore.
Yeah,
but like I used to. So
no, I remember back in the day when superhero movies would come out, we would be all over it. And I think it was around, I don't even remember what movie it was. I think the last superhero movie I saw was when Tobey Maguire was Spider-Man. I don't even remember what year that was. I think that might have been.
Okay. Yeah, it's like early 2000s.
Yeah, and after that, it's just yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, I just got kind of worn out on them as well. But Breaking Bad, though, back to that real quick.
Talk to me.
Just the idea of, and maybe because I watch way too many. I got too many kids shows going on, So I don't watch anything strong because I got kids running around. So I pretty much watch like
same way.
Car racing or whatever. And so I've gotten very desensitized, or maybe that's not. I've gotten very sensitive to adult content.
There's some heavy adult content in that show.
Oh man, and I mean, just from the first episode, it's like, here's one barrel, here's the other one, and then here's a vat of acid.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my!
Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it.
Yeah, just in case I'm the only one. And I mean, I was like, oh God, turning away. And I mean, it's a very dialogue heavy show, which you just don't get a lot of anymore. At least I don't. Mm-hmm. Again, that's not what superhero movies are about.
Well, remember, this show is like 10 years old now. So
right.
When you talk about what's going on now, this was.
But even at that, even 10 years ago, like everything seemed to be like, I mean, the attention span of a freaking squirrel. I mean, it was, I mean, everything is like a quick cut, a quick cut, a quick cut,
right.
a quick, you know what I'm saying?
That's why people like that show, because it was like a thinking person's show.
It was just a really good show. I mean, it was a good drama with, and their whole, I kind of figured out their whole, I think their formula, if you will.
Okay.
That's like a chemistry thing there. Yeah.
I saw what you did there. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So both in the entire series and then the same phenomenon in every episode of, the very first episode was bam, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of, here we go. And almost every episode had the same thing of wham, there's some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got like kind of the rest of the episode to get through. And then wham, there's a thing at the end to, hook you into, the next. And I'm sure they're not the only ones that use that formula.
Right.
But just watching, I mean, it's like 5 seasons and there's many episodes in each season. It's just so much dark ass content. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not a feel good show. Spoiler alert.
No.
The good guy, there is no real good guy, I don't think. So it's just, like I say, I was like, man, I need to like go for a walk in the sunshine or some shit.
Well, I did the same thing 6-7 years ago. I don't even remember now. I had never watched The Walking Dead, and I got convinced to watch The Walking Dead, and I binged the first 5 seasons before season 6 started.
Okay.
I couldn't walk outside at night. I thought I heard stuff. And it was kind of that same formula, like the first episode, like here comes this zombie little girl and boom, she gets shot in the forehead. And that's how the show starts. Have you seen The Walking Dead?
No, man, I'm not here's my thing on zombies. Like, I'm worn out on zombies. Like 10 years ago, I was worn out on zombies because like it was like, oh, do you need to spice up some shit? Here's a zombie. Are you a struggling writer and you can't fill a hole in your script? Add a zombie. Yeah, I'm like, man, I'm so tired of zombies. So I never caught that show. Is it good? I mean, did you?
It's still going now, and they've killed off all the good people. Like the first 7 seasons were the best. Like it was good, and then like I think all shows, if you don't end it soon,
7 seasons, that's going for a while. Because because even Breaking Bad, I mean, it was. I think they ended it at a really neat time.
Right.
But it was also kind of like to keep going. It's like I didn't know where they were going to keep going anyway. I mean, that's what was so neat about it. You know, it went to a lot of places that I didn't expect, which was what was so good. With zombies, I suppose they could do the same thing. I mean, you know, you don't know what to expect because you're in Zombieland. So how you don't know?
The thing about The Walking Dead was it wasn't a show of the first season was about the zombies, but once you figured out what the zombies were, it was a psychology show about how humans interacted with each other when things went poorly. Right?
Because well, that's fun.
Once they figured out, once they didn't have to be scared of the zombies anymore, they knew if you shot the zombie in the head, the zombie would die. The zombie wasn't very fast. You had to watch out for the herds. But everything went to hell. There was no electricity. There was no running water. So it was basically Lord of the Flies with zombies in there.
Got you.
Showed how people would melt down and treat each other extremely poorly and kill each other over a sandwich.
Right.
You know, so it became more of a show about that and
how you
tribalize.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what the zombies at the after the initial like oomph where there's like all these undead, because by season 3 or 4, the zombies weren't bad shape. You know, they had been dead for 4 years. and literally, I mean, the show did a good job of showing like basically a skeleton with a little flesh walking around.
Right.
You know, you didn't really have to be too scared of it because it wasn't like it was a fresh dead body. I mean, it became more of a show of like how humanity would like, what would happen right now if like all the lights went out everywhere? Like cars.
Yeah, for sure.
Nothing. Like right now, like we were like back in like 1600.
Be bad news.
Torches. You had to cook you had to go out and hunt your food. That's basically what it was. And then you throw some zombies walking around, you had to watch out because they eat your brain. But that show was more of a human experiment, and that's kind of why I liked it. That the zombies were the background, and the zombies were, you had to watch out where you went because like they did a season where they were in a prison, and obviously you walk into a prison and everybody in there's a zombie, so there's really no safe place to go. So you kill all the zombies, and then now that prison becomes your home, and there was food in there because, you know, it was refrigerated, and all these other people knew, ooh, there's food in that prison. So you had all these other groups trying to go in and kill the people who had taken over the prison so they could take it over, and then people come and kill them so they could take it over, and it just became like the worst part of humanity, and that's what the show was about to me.
Awesome.
But I binged that. But so what were your overall thoughts of Breaking Bad? Because it was a good show.
Shoot. I mean, I you know, even at the very end where he realized, you know, where he admitted, I think he'd realized it for a while, but he, you know, to actually say the words, I did it all because I liked it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it was, I mean, it was awesome. Because he justified everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for my family.
Mm-hmm.
The cartels sound similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you know, I mean, you know, it's a family. And
would you say that towards the end of that show, it wasn't really about meth or dope anymore? It was more about the process. That the meth kind of became the backdrop of everything.
It became, from the way I saw it, was how it could never be enough.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, even when he thought he had a big score, and he did have a big score relative to what he was used to, or even from the very beginning, like he had enough, bam, pay off all my bills. But then something hooked it back in,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it keeps dragging me back in. But then there were also times where it's like, no, you're just in it. You're just 2-footed. You're in. And you know, the starting to justify even that all in, and the scales that they were at, and how, you know, I mean, went from science teacher to freaking kingpin, stomping fools and smoking them and whatever.
Doing things that he never thought he would do when he first started.
But all of that was because he thought he was dying of cancer.
Right.
That's where he grew his balls. As soon as he thought he was dying of cancer, he went and fucked that one kid up in the store that was giving his crippled kid a hard time.
Yeah.
His handicap. Sorry. Anyway.
He thought he had nothing to lose.
That was his first instance of like just throwing down. Like, I don't give a damn. But that was all because of his cancer diagnosis. So he thought he only had a little bit to live. And he was like, I don't even care. Go for it. I'm going to go for it. And then it was just on from there. And it was even that moment, you know, because he went home and he banged his wife super hard. And he was like, I feel like the man. Woof, you know? And then, I mean, it was like the hat, the shaved head, and it's on now.
Heisenberg.
Yeah, you know, I mean, going into the bad guy. I mean, going into the bad guy. I don't remember all the characters' names, but it was like a low level, like cartel dealer dude. But it was like the first one, and he like went in there and like dropped some weird bomb, you know, that blew up the whole place. But then he's like standing there, like, you know, just throwing. I mean, the whole thing, the transformation, obviously going from that meek and mild chemistry high school chemistry teacher
to Heisenberg
to the Heisenberg. Yeah, you know, it was wild. But that at the very end where he was like talking to his wife and he was like, you know, you're kind of expecting him to say, you know, again, it was for the family. It was for the family. And she even said to him, like, there was a previous time where he said that. Or no, it was in that very scene. She's like, if you tell me it was for the family, I swear to God, I'm going to kill you or scream or whatever. He was like, no, it wasn't for the family. Because that was his line throughout the whole series. Yep. Always for the family. That means I can go do anything.
And justify it because it's
for the family. And that is some mob shit right there. I mean, that is
totally.
It is. I mean, that just is. It's the same thing. But then at the end, he's like, no, I just liked it.
I liked it.
Yeah. And that was
so why wouldn't you, back to what you said in the beginning, why wouldn't you advise binging a show like that?
Okay, so I guess I could qualify by saying, you know, if you're like me where you don't get a lot of adult content, to absorb that much dark adult content in a short span.
Yeah. A lot of violence and stuff in the short amount of time.
There's a ton of violence. I mean, it's just heavy stuff. And again, if you space it out over 5 years of that show being on once a month or whatever, or once a week, whatever, fine. But I mean, if you pack all that in to watch that, you know, and I mean, even for me, it was a couple weeks of getting through it, but I was like, you know, that's some heavy shit. And
yeah, it was.
And to be, you know, it's wild to be, you know, actually take the time to actually watch it that much. I guess I haven't done that much at all. Like I said, most of the viewing I do is just random car stuff or whatnot that is suitable for kids to run around. And that's the thing, you know, I mean, because way back when I was younger, I mean, I used to watch all manner of crazy shit. And you do get desensitized to it, which is going to run me smack into a topic. God dang, that's amazing how that happens. So, gaming and the army.
Ooh, I love the topic. Before we jump into that, I think we need to take a break.
Okay, I'm down.
We need to take a quick break. This is a great time for everybody right now. before we get into gaming in the Army to hit that like button, subscribe, comment, and we'll be back. Welcome back to the Jamal and Joe Show. We are back. Welcome back. Make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. We took a little break, and we were just kind of looking at some breaking news. If you're watching this right away, our current leader and soon-to-be former leader was sending out some late-night tweets. He hasn't done this in a while, but he was basically asking people to hurt other people, really not even a veiled way. So yeah, there's that. Like I said, we got about 70 days left of that. Hopefully not too much damage is done, but hey man, we're lightening it up a little bit. I want to talk about the Army and gaming. Tell me about that.
Well, mildly lightening it up, I guess. I think it's just I mean, it's similar to how much like the Army is involved in, or all the military in sporting events, specifically football. But like when I was a kid, when we were kids, the whole thing was, games, violent games make violent kids. If you play a rock and roll music record backwards, the devil will tell you to go.
The devil.
Yeah, all sorts of silly shit.
Yeah.
So I was always kind of railed against that, that, they're just games. They're just games. I know it's a game. They're just games. So you should not censor those games at any kind. Back in the day, it was like when Mortal Kombat first came out, and it was blood and guts. And it was wild. I mean, the first time I saw it, I was like, sign me up. I was like, I gotta play that.
Kano and Sub-Zero and
spine ripping and head smashing, and it was brutal. And I don't know, it was the idea of getting desensitized to that. And this is similar to what we just talked about of binging Breaking Bad and do you get desensitized to that much content? Do you by seeing remarkable amounts of violence over and over again, does that lessen its impact on an individual to where they maybe don't view it the same way in real life? They don't feel like it has the same seriousness as maybe it should. And taking that to the video game aspect, where it's one thing, like Grand Theft Auto is a game that is a pretty popular one, gets a lot of hate, but it's a real popular one where it's I wouldn't say a simulation by any stretch, but for those that aren't familiar, you run around in what looks like a city environment and you just create havoc and you go crazy. And so, that's one kind of a scenario, but specifically games like Call of Duty, or Halo, or I don't know, there's other ones, but what's called a first person shooter, where all you see is, your gun in your hand, and then
barrel of the gun. Yeah. Right.
And then you see the world in front of you, and you spin around and you run through the world and you find things to shoot.
Keep talking. I'm listening. Keep talking.
All right. So when you run around in this world to try to find things to shoot, how good are you at doing it? And by doing it like this, hours and hours and hours, over and over and over, you build up that muscle memory, of your eye, the hand-eye coordination, of identifying a target, and shooting at it. And is there any kind of a gap that's bridged by playing those types of games getting kind of desensitized. I mean, again, when it's one thing when you're talking about old Atari games and, none of this even existed. And hi, kitty, you have like, one dot chasing another dot. But when you have games that look as realistic as they do now, that are in racing games or in racing professions, they use a simulator. In the military, fighter jet pilots use flight simulators.
Mm-hmm.
So video games must have some kind of impact and some kind of actual valid experience that you get. Otherwise, they wouldn't invest a gazillion bucks so that people could sit in a glorified video game. The only difference between, my TV and Xbox and, a flight simulator that the Navy uses for its pilots is, they have a chair set up that will move you all around.
Right.
Like you're in the fighter pilot or like you're in the jet. And I'm sure it costs a lot more, but it's real similar. And so if that's good enough for the military to train its people on, then it seems kind of like we're doing a lot of training for a lot of potential military candidates by having, games like Call of Duty and whatnot, where a bunch of young folks, predominantly males, play this kind of game, get kind of indoctrinated into that whole way of thinking and talking, and especially people that really get into it.
Yeah.
Is that a pro or a con, or is that something that doesn't even exist? Is that all just in my mind and it's just really video games?
It is not in your mind, because there's been articles written where people who work for Rockstar Games and, these other conglomerates that make these games have been hired by the U.S. government to design simulators for recruits and ongoing training.
There you go.
I have friends who are in the military who have said that their drone program that they use to fly their drones and go and kill people looks a lot like a video game. The interface they use, the control they use, is a lot like an Xbox or a PlayStation controller. It's eerily similar. Now, granted, these people that I've talked to are not like high enough to fly the drones, but they've seen the equipment.
Okay.
So there was a guy I worked with 5, 6, 7 years ago now, and he was one of our IT guys. He was in Afghanistan when everything kind of went to hell. And funny little story. So the way those drones work and some of those missiles work is they parachute a guy in maybe a kilometer or two away with a laser pointer.
Yeah, right.
And he shines a laser pointer on the target,
right?
And that's how they know where to shoot it.
Right.
2 or 3 times after you do that, they figure out there's some dude with the laser pointer. Let's go shoot at him. That was his job, was a laser pointer.
Oh, wow.
So he would get, dropped out of an airplane and have to hike 3 or 4 kilometers up to a point. And then he would, with the binoculars, these binoculars, he showed me a video that he probably wasn't supposed to show me. These binoculars were like all that. Like, you see the night vision stuff. This was like, it's like I'm looking at you right now.
Wow.
But it looked like a video game. It had all the little numbers in the corners. I mean, it looked like a video game. So he showed me this video. These guys walking around with headscarves. And all of a sudden you see this bright light kind of shine on them. And then 3 seconds later, boom, they're gone. And he said the drone stuff they use, it looked like a controller. It was a little bit bigger and you had to hold it with 2 hands. It was, but then you think about the stuff that like you're talking about with Call of Duty. And if I'm the Army, if I'm the general of the Army, whatever that rank is, I kind of like to know who these hotshot 19-year-old kids are playing Call of Duty for 20 hours who have this quick hand-eye thing going on. And hey, let's talk to these guys. Let's see what we can do with them.
I don't see how that's any different than recruiters checking out high school football players.
Absolutely.
You know what? You guys are all really good at getting jacked up and all working together as a team to go kick some ass. So, you know, not a real big leap to go from doing that to put on this uniform instead and go do it.
Well, now remember this. So the Army sponsors the Army-Navy football game for high school. You know, have you seen those games where the kids are committing to college at halftime?
Right.
Why wouldn't the Army sponsor a Call of Duty tournament?
I am not sure that they don't. I mean, honestly, I would be willing to gamble a shiny nickel that there has been somehow, some way, the military involvement in a Call of Duty game either being produced and made or tournaments because of it. I mean, because there's tournaments where those kids, or not kids, there are adult folks that play Call of Duty, and those tournaments, they will win $1 million for winning that tournament.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a professional video game player at that point.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess a good or bad thing.
Well, think of it this way. So what was the game that came out 4 or 5 years ago where you were in the tank? I'm not a big gamer, but it was Tank Warfare or something where you were driving the tank and shooting people. I remember this thing that wasn't too far off the way you controlled it or the way the actual tank moves.
Yeah.
You know, so you get a kid that joins the Army and they're like, hey, have you ever played this game? Yeah, I was pretty good at it. All right, here, go jump in this tank and see what you can do.
Well, I mean, again, I'm pretty sure that they probably have tank simulators at tank driving school in the Army.
Sure they do.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's a lot cheaper to run a simulator than to actually go fire up a tank and go drive it around. I'm sure that costs a lot of money per minute to operate a tank. I mean, I'm sure they got a spreadsheet about that somewhere of what it takes to have all the logistics and all the fuel and all the whatever versus
firing up a simulator.
Yeah, fire up the simulator, and that same, I mean, you know, whether or not that same simulator can be a tank simulator and an F-15 simulator, you know, I don't know. But I just that simulators obviously work because they use them in everything from race car driving to the military. And so if simulators are a legit training tool, then I don't know. It seems like some of these games are more simulator than they are a game. And I don't know. I guess, you know, but there's a reason why there's ratings on them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the thing. You know, parents, Call of Duty really is not for your 9-year-old. It's just
so you've got boys and age, because my girls are not interested in video games at all unless it's Minecraft or.
That's the favorite one around here.
At what age would you let your boys play Call of Duty like hardcore?
I mean the same age I would let them play it at all. You know, and that's, I don't know, probably not to 15 or 16 at least, you know. And I was even chatting about that with my mom, and because, you know, I remember hearing that from her when I was young, and I'm like, you know, I always kind of poo-pooed that off because I was like, but these games don't look the same now. I mean, a game in 4K HD on the Xbox 360 or Xbox One, whatever the hell this thing is. I mean, they look really good. You know, I mean, the graphics are insane. I mean, I remember back in the day at the Alberta house where I would be playing NFL 2K, and I'm almost positive at least one person came in and was like, "Oh, what game's on?" Like,
Yeah.
no, it's a video game, you know. And they're like,
and that was 15, 20 years ago,
right? So there's got to be something to be said for when things look that real. I mean, there's a reason why they're making them look that real, because we all want them to look really real.
right?
But yeah, when it looks really real, it has a bigger impact, I think.
Would you have a distinction between like Call of Duty and like Halo, something that's set in a fantasy setting?
No, that's a good point.
No,
that's a real good point.
Call of Duty, like especially the new Call of Duty that's coming out, where they're like doing the Cold War. Have you heard about this one? They're doing these Cold War missions.
I just seen the commercial. Yeah.
So, I mean, would you look at that different than a Halo that's set on like this foreign planet where it's obviously not?
There's something to be said about that, because I mean, you're blasting aliens. You know, I mean, they look like weird alien monsters, and yet there's something to be said for just the idea of spinning around, acquiring a target, and shooting at it. That element, and that can be a Roblox game, that could be a Minecraft variant, that can be Call of Duty. It could look basic and stupid, or it could look super realistic. You could be shooting at zombies, or you could be shooting at ducks. But the idea that just the whole premise of spinning and shooting,
acquiring a target.
I mean, there's just something to that. And yes, if the whole setting is silly and fun, and it's like Mario, but a shooting Mario, I mean, I guess that's a little easier to stomach, but at the same time, you're still like, wow, you're still blasting stuff. So I mean, you're still getting that whole thing going on. Which I don't know. Some people are really cool with. They're like, no, I love my kid shooting. I want my kid to shoot as much as they can. Okay. But when you start getting into those ones where it's like, no, we're going to make this look as graphically real as possible.
Remember GoldenEye back in the day when
that was the shit.
And you had to like zoom in with the sniper rifle, and it was just like boom, headshot. It was. And back then that was hella realistic.
Right. But now when you see like a brand new Call of Duty game and you zoom headshot, I mean, it looks just that much better.
I mean, you watch Call of Duty now and you would think you were watching like National Geographic, and they're out in the field with the soldiers.
No, it looks amazing. They're beautiful. They're beautiful video games, and I just know that as an adult, like the impact that it can have, as far as like you get just numb to the whole blasting away at things,
right.
and I mean, is it any difference if it's a Star Wars game? If you're spinning, like you say, if you're spinning around blasting, but it's lasers,
right.
That's BS, and the lasers are blasting robots, so that's not all that bad,
right? So that's what I'm saying. Is there a distinction because this is like a warfare and it's another human being?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You can rationalize it down like oh well, it's Lego Star Wars, so it's just blasting Lego pieces, and they kind of look like people, but they're just Legos, and so so it's not that bad. And I agree, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as, it's not as graphically, again, that's what all the ratings are for. I mean, they're there for a reason, and I think that they work. I just don't think anybody actually ever, I mean, again, those kids don't have any of their own damn money.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, so it's their parents buying them that crap,
and
for whatever reason, the parents thinking that that's cool, and I just to sound like old parent, I don't know. I just don't think that's tough. I'm a huge video game fan, but there are just some. I mean, yes, your kid might be really good at it, but
but that's not a good thing. So I remember when my wife and I first were dating and getting serious, and I think we even lived together. We did live together. And I don't know if you remember, dude, but I was like, when Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas came out, like that was my jam. I would play that game for hours. And I remember one night I was at her house, and I think we were still living at the Alberta house. I don't really remember the time frame is kind of fuzzy. But anyways, I was with her. She was like, will you put your game in and play it? And I'm like, why? She's like, I just want to watch it. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, it's just cool to watch. And I'm like, okay, I'll go get it. And I went and she's like, oh, can you go and do this? And I mean, it was for her, it was like watching a movie.
Yeah, for sure.
I never really knew that she enjoyed watching me play Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And, you know, it was like a whole like Boys in the Hood movie. You know, it was this, you know, it was kind of cool because at the time, I don't remember when it came out, was I in my late 20s, early 30s, but it was the first time that there was like an African-American that was the lead in a video game, which was kind of cool.
Right.
And it was kind of like the whole West Coast, you know, gangbanger, you know, and before all the other games were kind of like mob. Like, remember what was the one that came, Grand Theft Auto 3 or 5 or the one?
Yeah, it was back in New York or whatever.
It was, yeah, and it was always like, this was.
Or Miami, one of those two.
Dude, that was a good one.
Miami. Yeah, Vice City. Yeah.
That was like based on Scarface and all that, but.
They had a lot of references. They had references to, I mean, there's a lot of Miami Vice references in that, obviously.
Yes. But remember the house, the 2-story apartment, that was like right out of Scarface.
No, for sure. No, they don't miss a beat in those games, man. They got
no, they don't. Rockstar Games does a good game, but it was more like a movie with the vignettes and the cutaways, and it was more like a movie, and you could really get caught up in it. But at the time I was playing it, I was a grown ass man, so I wasn't really being influenced by it. But I look at like my little cousins and nephews and stuff, and because I mean, if you think about it, a whole generation of kids kind of grew up saying it's okay to carjack somebody. Because I mean, wasn't it?
Well, again, I don't think that I'm just throwing it out there that, you know, I mean, that's Grand Theft is probably not a game for kids, you know.
Right, but I mean, wasn't that the premise? You see a car, you grab the guy, you throw him out.
Yeah, I mean, if you were feeling the need, you know, that's what you do.
And then the police come and chase you. You go into the paint and spray, and you come out, and then they don't know who you are. I mean, right? Am I telling you?
No, that's the gig, you know. That's
why it's not. That was fun. I mean, we did that for hours.
Yeah.
At the same time, I wasn't going to go out to 39th and Alberta and carjack somebody.
Unlikely, you know.
That's not to say that somebody might.
And not. I don't think, and that's the thing. I wouldn't go so far as to say, like, I think kids playing Call of Duty, I don't think I would go that far to make that kind of a connection that kids playing Call of Duty would get desensitized to the point where they would somehow go blast away. But
I would say this, if those kids did go to the Army, it wouldn't take them as long to get accustomed to shooting somebody than it would somebody who'd never played a game.
At least shooting at a target. I mean, like, for example, there's a call, I think it was Modern Warfare. I'm not too familiar with all their catalog. I just played a couple of them. But in the storyline, I mean, the game opens with you're like undercover with like a group of like Russian mobster bad guys, and you're in with their group as they go to an airport, and they go, "Here's your machine gun, bro. Let's go." And you proceed to go through the airport as they mow down the entire airport. Mm-hmm. That's the scene. It is proper fucked. I mean, it is scarring in my mind to play that. I played that mission, and the whole time I'm just walking, and because like you're supposed to, like you can just start hosing people down, you know. And I did, and I'm just like I'm like, wow, is this really the freaking level that I'm playing right now? Are you kidding me? And like all the other, like, you know, the computer characters of the game, like, you know, they notice that you're not shooting. They're like, come on, man. You know, and it's just like,
the NPCs.
It's so wrong. I mean, it's so messed up. And again, as an adult, I played this and I was like, good God. I mean, I couldn't imagine, like, you know, again, there's no way any parent that lets their kid play that knows that that's what's being played. And if they do, I mean, damn, shame on you. I mean, honestly, I mean, what are you doing? I mean, how you could let a kid play that and go, oh, it's just a game.
It's a game. Yeah.
Nothing. Okay, cool. So I don't know. Anyway, that was my whole rant on that. I was just curious. In the end, I think the ratings are there for a reason. I remember when ratings first got put on video games and everybody was like, oh my God, how could you? Well, this is how you can, because it's ridiculous to think that a kid should be playing anything from Mortal Kombat to Call of Duty. I mean,
so let's talk about this. I know we're getting long on time.
Nah.
Let's talk about this. Fortnite. What do you know about Fortnite?
It is a wildly successful game that created a new benchmark by being free initially, which is pretty special, really, that you can log in and you can play it for free and you can be part of the whole experience. And that's great. And there's a lot of opportunity to spend real money on further upgrades as you see fit. I've never played it. I've never even seen it in action. That's what I've heard. And at one point they were making remarkable amounts of money.
And they still are, not what they were before. But the thing about Fortnite was it's the same concept, but they've like dressed it up. You've seen all the Fortnite dances, right? You've seen the kids do the Fortnite dances.
I just know, well, okay, here's the thing. I know you don't have Cam Newton anymore.
Right.
Just wanted to put that out there.
I mean, like, thank you, but yeah.
But didn't he start this whole thing?
The dab, yeah.
Wasn't that his thing, like from a long ass time ago? Like when he would run in a score or whatever, boom, he would do this. He was the first guy I had ever seen do that. But then, like suddenly, like my 4-year-old does that shit. It's kind of cute until like they do it all the time, and you're like, God, stop. I mean, like if
2015, everybody was doing the dab. Betty White.
Oh, I know. I'm like 5 years behind everything. I know. But yeah, no. I mean, like my kid gets some soda, and he's like, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with the dab, but like, oh, the Fortnite, the dancing. That was like the big dab. The dab is huge in Fortnite, right? Because like when
and then the you know.
Oh, is that for like being a loser?
Yeah, and then the floss. You've seen people do the floss.
Yes, the floss. That was the other thing. Oh my God! Because again, I coached my other kids' soccer team recently, and nothing like seeing. Well, I mean, recently, as in the last few years, but like nothing like seeing like a bunch of like 6-year-old boys and girls all of a sudden all just going.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you doing?
They're doing, I mean, dude, there's like 15 Fortnite dances. But at the end of the day, Fortnite is a Call of Duty light, right?
It's a shooter,
but,
you know?
But they've got like clown heads on. And
yeah, I mean, it's, again, instead of the ultra real graphic kind of look like Call of Duty has, it has more of a cartoonish,
right,
kind of a silly look.
But to your point, while that's a free game, they are making money because they're selling these cartoon heads and cartoon guns, but they're still shooting people, you know? So,
oh, for sure. But I mean, that they figured that they were able, I don't know how, that they made that much money
off a free game. And I mean, again, you know, it's all the other things that you're buying. But I mean, they just showed that model that I mean, if you make a good core product, you know, and because video games kind of figured out this whole process of, here's the game, we're not going to sell you all of it, we're going to sell you part of it, and then later on we're going to sell you the rest of it. And they figured out that's better than selling you all of it, because we can sell it to you twice. Right. Or maybe 3 or 4 times if we sell.
I was going to say 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. I mean, and it's gotten painful because as a huge video game fan, you know, this whole phenomenon has gotten hard to deal with, you know, especially if you're talking about a game where, try to give an example. Oh, let's say of Call of Duty, since we're just on a Call of Duty rant. And I mean, honestly, like I've played so little of that game, but here you go. You can pay money, or say Fortnite. You can pay money for a different head, you know, or a different costume, or make your gun a different color, whatever. Fine. You can pay real money to do that, and you look different. What is not as fresh is that when you can pay real money to get a better gun, to get a more powerful piece of armor, or something that changes the actual gameplay to where now how you run around out in the field is different than everybody else, because you decided to pay an extra $5 to get a bigger super gun, fancy whatever the hell, and now your gun can shoot through every wall and nobody's safe from the guy that paid an extra $5. Right. You know, that whole phenomenon sucks. And you know, it's one thing if you want to look different, fine, cool, whatever, who cares? That's neat. But when it's actually changing the gameplay, because it used to be, you know, you would have to put in the hours in the game to unlock certain stages. And so only like if somebody was rolling with like the big gun or whatever, you're like, ooh, that guy
this game for like 100.
Yeah, that's like a level 600 guy or something.
Yeah.
You know? And you're like, that guy, there's only 3 of those dudes.
Right.
Versus, oh, somebody just paid $750 and got the big laser gun. And now they run rampant and, you know, blow away everybody because
it is. It's like my daughters play Roblox. And Roblox has a million different games. So my oldest picked up a new game in Roblox and she's like, oh, I need some Robux. And I'm like, I just bought you Robux. Playing this new game now, and I don't want to have a noob skin, because if you're wearing this outfit, everybody knows you're a noob, and I don't want to be a noob.
Funny how they play on that, huh?
Yeah. And here's the thing. I'm like, okay. My wife is like, no. I'm like, no, she can't be walking around in this game looking like a damn noob, right? There's a certain noob skin, right? You know this. In games, like, it's the stripped down model of the character. And if you were trying to interact with other people, they're going to go, oh, noob, no way.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Which is a couple things there. If it's a competitive kind of game, and by competitive, I mean like a shooter game where you get on a team and you try to outscore the other team by blasting them.
Right.
To me, it's almost a badge of pride, of honor to rock fools while I am in my noob skin. Because there is nothing more satisfying. Like back in the old days, like in the old days of Halo, there's a phenomenon known as teabagging, where if you defeat your opponent, before they respawn, they lie helpless on the ground, and they can see their own corpse while they're waiting to respawn. There's like a countdown meter, like wait to respawn, wait to respawn. And you can just see your corpse laying there. which is an opportunity for somebody that has maybe just killed you to run up to your corpse, stand over the top of your face, and then crouch, and then uncrouch, and then crouch, and then uncrouch, and then crouch, and then uncrouch, in an effect known as teabagging, to let you know who daddy is.
Oh my God.
It was worth, I don't know how many times I got killed just so I could go teabag somebody that I had got done shooting. Like, I risked getting blasted by somebody else just to run out and go teabag a motherfucker. I mean, totally worth it. Didn't matter. I mean, there would be a pile of like dead guys just all teabagging each other and somebody blasting the new guy. You know, the little things, you know, but that would be in the new Fortnite world or Roblox world or whatever. That would be even better than teabagging. If you wandered around in your noob skin, because the thing is, if you play for any amount of time in any of these games, you'll gain new skins. You just got to put the time in. And and again, that's something that kind of chaps my gamer ass a little bit.
That you can get out of your noob skin right away without
you put that time in. You go ahead and put that time in. Mm-hmm. It ain't but a few minutes. Just go put that time in, and then you can get out of your noob skin. But even if you don't, to run around in noob skin and ask your daughter this one, pwn other noobs, or even the big studs with all the fancy outfits to blast them, and then maybe drop a teabag on them for old time's sakes. I don't know if the kids do that anymore. They probably don't. You know, but the hook that they set in those games, because that's the amazing thing with Fortnite. That's what they showed, was that we'll give you a free game. Come on in. Come on in.
Come on in.
And if you like what you see, it's real cheap. You know, and that's
here's the other thing though. They've got the players indoctrinated that you have to spend money on a free game, because theoretically there should be no knock on the noob skin, but you want the bigger, badder, cooler thing. So if you're coming into this, so the game isn't free because the community has decided the game isn't free.
Well, but then that's when you need to go ahead and be just a wee bit of a free thinker and go, no, I love free games, and I'm going to wander around this free game in my freeness because I just enjoy the crap out of the game. But that is what I suppose is that a lot of folks maybe aren't so much into the actual gameplay gaming as much as they are into the, I want to just be an avatar and I want to get new things. I mean, honestly, I won't go quite there, but a lot of folks like getting new stuff all the time. I mean, you know, it's, and that's one thing that these video games are really good at, is feeding that slot machine kind of feel of, you know, you pull the handle, what am I going to get? And you know, open the little treasure box, what are you going to get? That's a huge thing in these, and that always has been. You know,
but think about this though. Think about this. Think about the Grand Theft Auto. There was no way to buy something. That's why
that game is wonderful, because they don't charge for any of that stuff. They just,
there was no way to go online with the code and pay $5 to get Craig a new car. You had to.
Although there kind of is now. I'm
talking about back then.
No, back then for sure. But now there is, and now it does suck a little bit, because you go into the open world of Grand Theft, and people have spent real money, cash, greenbacks, debit card purchase for Grand Theft money, so that they can roll around in a tank or a jet or whatever. And so here you are, bebopping along in your cute little new car that you got in Grand Theft, because you're like, yay, I got a cool Mustang.
And then here comes a tank.
And boom, you just got mowed down by a chopper. You know, I mean, and it's brutal. And you know, but there's options. You can play private games, whatever. If you swim amongst the crazy pool, you just know that people are peeing in it. And
Right.
so,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, man, it's a crazy world. I mean, people have found a way to monetize everything.
Yeah, but they've just done such a great job with that of like, here's a free game and you'll still give us money.
Right. Because remember, what was
That's
it?
so good.
$60.
Yeah. And I mean, some games
Bucks
and
for a
a lot of games still are, but that whole other series of free games, but then you'll pay. I mean, Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
It's free.
Yeah. But
how much you spend up to date?
I don't even want to talk.
I know.
Don't want to talk about
I know.
it.
But good on them for the way that they do that. You know, I mean, here's the thing. They got to make the core game worth a shit.
Right.
If it wasn't, if Fortnite was garbage, nobody would care. Nobody would play.
Nobody would play it.
Pokemon Go is a lot of fun. And yes, you can spend your money on it if you want to, but you don't have to. You can just play. I mean, I played that game for a couple of years before I spent a dime.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Fortnite, I'm sure, is the same way. If you want to just run around to play Fortnite, to play the core game,
and just have fun,
you can still do that, and that's awesome. And yes, you're limited. I get it, but the point is that they made a core game that's good enough. Apparently, it's really good. that many people get interested in it, and then they create that marketplace, you know, for people to express their individuality. Cool.
They spend money. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I sit there and I watch my kids play their video games, and you know, my 8-year-old is really concerned about not looking like a noob, and I think it's that second grade mentality of you're trying to learn how to fit in. And she's like, Dad, I need to get this outfit, and I need to get this house, and I need to build this, and I need to build that. And I'm like, what do you want? She's like, I need 800 Robux. I'm like, how much is that? Oh, it's only $10.
I'm
like,
yeah.
10. I'm like, okay, well,
$10,
that
right?
sounds like 2 hours of work to me.
Yep.
You know, and then at the same time, I see her playing with the noob skin, and I'm like, all right, here's the $10. You know,
you can't take it.
Then that competitive dad kicks in. You know, your kid being the kid with the noob skin. You know, and then it's like, all right, here's $10. Here's 10 more. Go ahead, trick it out.
Nice.
So now she's got this tricked out tree penthouse and Adopt Me, and it's pimped out, and she's got a lemonade stand. And
go get yourself something nice.
Dude, people spend real money at her lemonade stand.
Does she get that money?
Yes.
Really?
Well, okay, here's what happens. You spend real money on in-game currency.
Yes.
And then in-game currency, they buy her lemonade.
So she gets the in-game currency.
You can't take it out.
No, I dig it, but I mean, those are the Robux, right? That she's asking you to buy for $10 for 800 of them. Yes. Now she gets them from a lemonade stand. For God's sake, a virtual lemonade stand.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm conflicted there, but you know what? That's kind of great. I mean,
and then the people that buy the lemonade, they drink the lemonade and it gives them health.
Of course.
Right. So you see the loop there, right?
Oh, it's ridiculous. I don't know, man. It's
and then in Adopt Me, she has a pet, and you've got to feed the pet or it gets sick. So
I can only imagine the different medicines you could buy to make your pet better.
There's a whole pet hospital.
Of course there is.
So you have to buy food to keep your pet healthy, or you got to take your pet to the hospital. And guess what? That comes in currency.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. Now, I've kind of, I mean, my kiddos talked about the Roblox and the Robux, whatever the hell. I've been pretty deaf eared to that. You know, I let him kind of rock on, do his thing, whatever. But although I think birthday or something, I think I caved and I was like, fine, here's 10 Robux blocks, whatever the shit.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Every company's figured out a long time ago. If you can make a kid ask their parents.
Yeah. Well, and then here's the other thing. So my daughter, she has her little FaceTime group with her friends. And I bought her some Robux, the 11-year-old. And then she was like, oh my God, your dad got you Robux? Your dad is the best. Oh my God, that's so cool. And of course I hear that and I'm like, hey, Addison, do you want me to buy you some more Robux?
Oh my God.
And then her friends were like, oh my God, you know, Addison's at your son. And they got me. And I know they got me.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Roblox. They got
me. I mean, Roblox probably gets me for $4 a month between both kids, $20 each a month.
You know, that is some young man's McLaren gas fuel up for the week.
Absolutely. That's somebody's Elon Musk truck.
Oh, speaking of Elon, he got the Rona.
Oh, that's right.
And apparently he doesn't know what a false negative is.
Right.
Because he said he took like 4 tests. 2 of them came back positive and 2 came back negative. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you got it.
Yep. And he was another anti-masker. And
was he really?
Remember, he said he was going to defy the governor of California's orders and open up all his factories because he was losing so much money.
Did he actually do that?
I don't know. I think he probably got the Rona before he got a chance to do that.
Nice.
He was saying that recently.
Wow. Well, yeah. So,
yeah.
Good job. Yeah, the Rona got Elon. I hope it doesn't delay the Cybertruck. Do you want to do like any buy or sell real quick before we round third? Or did we already do it close enough?
We kind of already did the buy or sell. We already did it. And I got a couple things that I don't want to just throw in because I want to give it some time. So I will hold that over to our potential midweek show that we're thinking about.
Yeah, that's right. There's a big announcement.
Yeah, so we're going to test out a little midweek show. So, hey, I wanted to say this. I wanted to say thank you to all of our new subscribers this week.
For sure.
Yeah, and before I go into that, I want to say a quick thank you to all of our new subscribers this week. It's really awesome to have you guys on board, and I'm glad you're enjoying what you're seeing. So drop us a line at Jamal and Joe Show on Twitter, or just make a comment on this video that you're watching right now and let us know what you like the most and what you like the least and what you would like to see more of.
Good night, everybody.
See ya.